I came to Newman so I could provide a better future for my daughter and be able to afford to give her what I want. And I just love the life in the northwest. It's so much easier to handle. It's a great life.
I thought, what have I done? All I saw is this red, and I was pregnant at the time. And then when I gave birth to Christopher, all he had was red hair, and I thought, oh no, this has got to be a coincidence.
When I first came to Newman, I was scared the hell out of seeing the white people. I wouldn't come out of my house for about 3 months.
I first went to the Pilbara in the 1960s to make a film about the development of the iron ore mining industry. The flight took 7 hours from Perth in a small plane, stopping at remote townships along the way. I found the ancient landscape extremely beautiful. The horizons were immense, and the deep yellows and reds of the land glowed in the early morning light. The film we made was for a mining company, to show investors at their annual general meeting and to promote the mining industry throughout the country. Today this film has become yellow and faded with time. The iron ore deposits that had been discovered were so rich they could be mined for hundreds of years. There was a feeling of excitement that something new and big was happening.
Today, the historic pattern is repeated as the discovery of tremendous iron ore deposits in the far northwest opens up the land, brings industries, towns, roads and railways to once empty areas. Mines once again stabilizing and developing the nation's economy.
It was the new technology of the 60s that enabled these deposits to be exploited for the first time. These were the boom days. We believed the future of the nation lay in places like the Pilbara. It was unbelievably hot, and I was covered with red dust all day. But I found the mine works had a beauty of their own, which we tried to capture on film. The film we made reflected the optimism of the mining boom. It seemed a golden era. Within a few years, a number of different companies had opened up 6 mining towns, serving 3 ports connected by a railway network. The men who built the railways in this remote region all seemed to be running away from somebody or something. Millions of dollars were spent on these railways to carry the iron ore from the inland mines to the coast. But for the people, there was only a rough road or track to link them to the outside world. Near each mine and port was the company town. In the evenings, we'd often be invited to the homes of the miners, where we met their wives and children. I admired these women who'd come so far to keep their families together and build a new community. And I often wondered how they faced the isolation in these artificial towns in the outback. The mining companies had created a facade of red brick suburbia in the middle of nowhere. And our job was to make these towns look like part of the great Australian dream. I'd always wanted to make a film about the women in these remote places. When I returned to Newman to do so over 20 years later, I was surprised to find it's now an open town, administered by the local shire instead of being totally run by the company. Where there was once red earth and dust, there are now parks and gardens. But the hardships for women, in particular the isolation, remain much the same. If you go to the edge of the town and look out, all you see is desert. The heat's insufferable. It's over 40 degrees for months on end. The streets are deserted for much of the day, for it's too hot to go out in the sun, play sport, or even go to the swimming pool. Those women who don't have jobs are trapped inside their air-conditioned houses, with nothing to do for most of the day except watch television. With change of shift in the afternoon, the town briefly comes to life as the workers return home to their wives or girlfriends and the kids are let out of school.
The company owns the majority of the houses, and the houses are occupied by employees of the company. The house, if it's rented from the company, is in the husband's name. He signs the rental contract with the company. So a lot of women stay in unhappy situations in places like Newman, in company towns, because they've got nowhere else to go. Now, if you have a situation where there's a marriage breakup, or it might be a situation that entails domestic violence, where the husband's beaten up the wife. Now, she has problems because if she gets out of the house, unless she can go to friends or relatives, she's got nowhere to go. It's a bad situation because the woman is definitely at a disadvantage as far as the housing is concerned. She's got accommodation as long as she stays with her husband and her husband's working for Mount Newman Mining. But if that changes, then she has to get out.
I was one of the lucky ones. I happened to have friends living here, so I was able to move in with them, which made it a lot easier because there's no accommodation unless you're very rich. The houses, I would say, would always be owned by the company because that gives them ultimately the upper hand in the town because they control the major thing, which is accommodation. If you haven't got somewhere to live, you can't stay.
About 7 minutes' drive from the town is the Mount Whaleback Mine, operated by Mount Newman Mining Company. 500 kilometres from the coast, this iron ore mine is the most isolated in the Pilbara. In contrast to my reactions to the town, I've always felt excited amongst these huge workings, for this is where the action is. The mine's the only reason for the existence of the town.
Mount Newman Mining is still the major employer, and 90% of the working population here work for Mount Newman. Often husband and wife, sons and daughters, whole families work for Mount Newman, so it's still very much a company town.
When I first filmed in the Pilbara, I was the only woman on the mine. But since the 70s, women have won the right to work in many jobs, once reserved for men. While there are still only a handful of women on the mine, some like Joanne are driving enormous haul packs.
What I like about the trucks at the moment is I go to work to relax. Like when I'm at home, I do my washing and shopping and all that, and then when I go to work, it's like relaxation. If I didn't have a job in Newman, I don't think I would be able to stay here unless I was having a family, because there's just not enough to do around here.
Thanks to Mount Newman Mining, women can get quite a different variety of jobs. They're doing everything from sweeping the floors to driving the haul packs, which is good. I mean, they've got women in all areas of the mine. But outside of the mine, they are restricted to very much traditional employment for women. The offices, the hospital, the shops, cleaning, that sort of thing. and employment is limited, employment opportunities are limited for women. So at the moment, we've got quite a few women in town who are feeling extremely frustrated because they cannot get the type of work they're used to doing and the type of work that they did before coming to Newman.
I'm a teacher. I've been working full-time for 8 years in Perth, and there's no job up here. There's one high school. And if they don't have a vacancy, then you don't have a job. You've got no other choice.
I've got about, 170, easily 170 people on my books at the moment, all looking for work. And 2/3 of them would be women. Margaret Wen. Women who, you know, the kids are all at school now, so they're stuck at home and they don't want to get into the habit of watching the soapies all day. There are other women who have come up here with their husbands or boyfriends or whatever, because their husbands have started work here at the mine. These women, after years of going out to work every day and being fulfilled, you know, stretched to their limit, now find that they've got hours when they're sitting around doing nothing. And they're just not used to it. And a lot of them can't handle it. It causes a lot of stress.
I mean, I used to be stuck, like, getting up in the morning, like 10, 11 o'clock, sitting there eating, putting on weight. I think, this isn't me, I've got to get out of this. So I forced myself to routine to get up as early as I can, like about 8 or 9. It's pretty early. And then make sure that you do your washing, or you do something, go for a walk, go down the shops to get your exercise in, not just sitting here looking at 4 walls.
You do get that feeling that what's the point of doing anything, what's the point of getting out of bed when, you know, there's sort of nothing, you can do what you've got to do, your housework in half an hour. So I seriously considered staying where I was because I had a full-time job, sport, my own house, friends, and I thought, giving all this up to go up there where I don't know anyone, it was a big step to take, but Gavin has a job at the mine and so I didn't want to live on my own anymore.
Living apart's dreadful. It's much better to be up here and be together, I guess. At least that's what he keeps saying. It's all very well for him, though. He's got a job and I'm sitting at home.
To break the monotony, women gravitate to the cool of the air-conditioned shopping centre, sometimes going 2 or 3 times a day. They seem to be seeking a sense of community that's often hard to find in these company-built towns.
I think I broke the barrier there by starting in at sport, and as soon as I started playing sport, well, then I got to know people, and then I started working after that. When we started in a male-orientated workforce, my impression was to go in there as a female worker. I had to do as much work as the guys to prove myself, to myself, also to the people that employed me. So I will have a go at anything, lifting weights and things like that. If I can't do it, normally the guys can't lift it by themselves either. You do run into hassles. There's a lot of people that say, well, you shouldn't be here still, because they are from the old school. Slowly but surely, yes, we are, but accept a little bit more, and the guys are slowly coming around.
A lot of single women wouldn't come up here because, one, you're in a very male-orientated environment up here, where men are very much the strong power, and it's very much the iron men of the Pilbara up here, so you've got to fight against that. It's easier to get into it up here because there is less jobs for women in women-orientated jobs, so they've got to start moving into the men's fields to get work and to keep your sanity. There's no way I'd get a break like this in the city because they just don't like women in workshops in the city. I honestly don't have much to do with the women that are unemployed and unhappy because I can't be bothered with women like that. If you're not happy what you're doing, don't do it.
Well, my boyfriend works from 6:30 till 7, which is over 12 hours, so that's a long time for me to be on my own. We just have to find a fine balance between making the money, like doing the overtime, and spending time together, because time goes by very slowly when you're on your own.
And some women can do it. They can sit at home, watch the telly all day, read the papers, read the magazines and things like that. That's fine, that's their lifestyle. But I couldn't do it. I would need to get out and work, definitely.
I admired Cheryl as she worked skillfully and with great enthusiasm for long hours in the heat and dust. She is obviously fulfilled by her work and enjoys the independence of earning her own money. But for most women here, jobs on the mine are few and far between, and their skills and training are in other fields.
Most people come up here to make money and then to go back and own their own home, you know. So we set a goal of 5 years, but I'm not sure whether we will last that long or not. I guess we'll get over it. Everybody says, oh yes, when I first came I wanted to pack up and go home every day too, but after 6 months or a year you get to know more people, you start to find yourself a job, find a little niche in the community, and you do last a lot longer.
Have you switched it back or not?
Once I got back into the workforce, got back into my sport and that, well, that was just a totally different, it opened up a whole new world for me then. And I said, I love it now, I never want to leave this place.
Although Joanne and Cheryl enjoy living in Newman, the problems for most women who accompany their husbands and boyfriends to these mining towns remain much the same as when I was here over 20 years ago. Many women who once had professional careers are now faced with nothing to do but to keep house and have children. Their only alternative is to leave the men they love, but for most, that's asking too much. Watching the scenes we set up as filmmakers in the 60s, I realised I didn't fully understand the frustrations that lay just beneath the surface. By portraying only the good times, we were gilding the lily.
As with the gold rushes a century earlier, minerals bring an influx of people and wealth to thinly populated places. Many nationalities come to the new mining towns, where people enjoy good living conditions and a pleasant and prosperous way of life.
From my home in Sydney, I've always followed news of what was happening in the Pilbara. Isolation and hard-working conditions in the heat and dust aggravated industrial disputes that often split the communities and affected the lives of women and children. But it was the industrial dispute at Robe River Iron Associates that made the most impact on me. When Pico Wallsend took control in 1986, the company sacked the old management and drew up individual staff contracts that ensured if workers went on strike, their jobs could be filled by the staff. The company's objective was to break the unions and change work practices.
The company, and by that I mean the previous management, had been negotiating with the unions for over 2 years to try and make changes. And certain improvements in practices had taken place, but as soon as one improvement took place, 2 or 3 other restrictions were placed on the workforce. So the previous management was really not achieving their objectives, so there was only one way to move on that, and that was very quickly.
The company started a run of sackings and random job transfers, throwing the workforce into chaos.
And the more they push us and the more they confront us, the more they get the people's back up. And if they would just sort of tell us where we stand, that's the biggest problem. From day to day, you don't know where you stand. You don't know whether when you come to work in the morning, they're going to sack you, give you another written warning, change your job.
The fact is, the details of the alleged...
Upset and confused, the unions went to the Industrial Commission, who ordered the company to reinstate everyone who'd been sacked and negotiate through the Commission. The company defied the order, sacked the entire workforce and locked them out. After 5 weeks of bitter dispute, the company finally complied with the Commission's order to give the workers back their jobs. But the dispute has never really been resolved. Myself the effects of this ongoing dispute on the women, I travelled to the Robe River port operations and the adjoining town of Wickham. I was amazed how deeply the women are affected by the way the company still treats the workers and the divisions it creates in this small, remote community that was once united.
3 years ago, Robe River moved in and they sacked the top management. The manager lived next door to me. And you could say hello to him. They used to have Christmas parties. You know, everybody joined in together. And Robe River took over and everything changed after that.
The biggest shock was when management did come in, they did sack everybody. And they said that this is how they're going to manage.
Things had to be tightened up, but they did it just too hard, too fast. I mean, you know, there's ways of going in and cleaning up a business, but they just came in and sacked the whole workforce.
They locked the workers out. They made it that you couldn't talk to staff because the staff had took over my husband's job and all the other workers' jobs. So from then on, the community spirit was lost.
28. What groundwork they'd done, had they? I said, you know, you're aware.
I just came straight from England. I loved it because it was blue sky every morning and to me it was just great. And the atmosphere, the people were nice. You go to the shops, even people you didn't know would say hello and smile at you, and I thought, oh, this is lovely after coming from a big town. It was just a really good, easy life. The conditions were good, wages were good, the housing was good. That was for the first 10 years of living up here. In the last 3 years, well, we're leaving in 2 months and I can't wait. I'm actually marking off every day on the calendar.
The women in Wickham feel insecure because of the fact that they don't know from one day to the next whether their husbands are going to be coming home and saying, well, look, I didn't do what they told me to do, so I've been sacked, so therefore we've got 7 days to get out of our houses.
The management say, you do that, you'll do it, or else if you don't like it, you can go. And they say, do that, if you don't do it, you know, we'll give you a written warning. My husband's had 12 written warnings. You know, menial things, being 5 minutes late from a union meeting.
In the way it is now, staff are up here, wages are down here. And if they want you to clean the toilets tomorrow, you can be a tradesman, you'll be cleaning the toilets. Never mind your trade, never mind how many certificates you've got.
We move people around where they can be best used for the operation.
Why would you move a truck driver onto cleaning the toilets? I mean, how efficient is that? That's
well, the toilets do have to be cleaned.
By truck drivers?
By someone, and they're all members of the same union. Yep.
Robin and Gwen have been living in Wickham for 17 years. They feel totally demoralised by the way Robin's been treated.
They just got no dignity about the place anymore. Like, Robin has been driving trains for, 22 years, and he's just got no pride in his job anymore. When we go into dispute, the staff are there, they run my husband's trains, they do the work of the workers, and when we had the picket line in the dispute in 86, they'd come through the gate and yell out, we're getting paid, are you getting paid?
Anna and Rob have been here for 18 years, and their lives have also been disrupted.
Well, it comes home. It really does come home to the house. I mean, your husband comes home and he's had a bad day, and then he starts telling you about it, and you sort of get real indignant that he's got to go out there and work in these conditions that are so unsafe. I mean, he might be a father and a husband, and these people are putting him at risk. They've got no right.
In their attempt to minimise union influence on their workforce, Robe River asks new employees to sign individual contracts, including clauses that ban strike action.
I suppose there's always that doubt in your mind, because when Gary did sign his contract of employment, it did say that he was on probation and he wasn't allowed to strike. And 2 weeks after we moved into Wickham, they had their first strike and Gary went out on strike.
It's not going to be a short meeting. I'd have to be saying to you now, I don't see it being a short meeting, because I think we're going to have to really sit down and look at what's before us to make a decision whether we're going to pull on. This is going to end up being bloody Robe River 3, because you're aware, if we withdraw our labour again, rather than just having stop meetings, we're going to withdraw our labour on this issue in support, then that may then attract from them all of the reactions that they've been threatening all the way through. Right? Sacking, moving through, raising rents.
Well, we ourselves feel like we're political pawns here. We feel that this is the emerging of the new right here. If we're not prepared to fight for ourselves here, then it'll go Australia-wide. I mean, this company don't want unions, they don't want the Industrial Commission.
The attitude is profit and just get everything out as quickly as possible and fill up the ships.
We have decided what is best for the operation.
With the current boom in iron ore exports and the upgrading of facilities, Robe River Iron Associates has tripled its production. While we were there, the largest cargo ever to leave Australia sailed from Port Lambert. While the company claims increased profits for the benefit of the nation, for me, profits fade into insignificance when related to the unhappiness I found amongst the women of the town. While filming in Wickham, I felt intimidated by the suspicious atmosphere. I felt as if the company was watching our every move, noting who we were interviewing and what we were photographing. After a few weeks, I was looking forward to leaving this town.
If you're in a company town and the company run everything, what chance have you got? Yeah, it's just that they own you. You know, that's what you feel. You feel trapped.
Well, since the 86 strike, it really isn't a town, it's not a community anymore. The community is divided in such a degree that I doubt whether it'll ever get back together again.
Let's face it, we did have strife back in 86, but that's all gone, that's past. And I can honestly walk down the street now, I talk to anyone and everyone. I have children who are wages personnel. There is certainly no tension anywhere amongst them, amongst their friends who we have a lot of involvement with.
I've got neighbours across the road and I've got neighbours next door that I don't even speak to because they're staff and they don't speak to me anyhow. So I figure, well, if they're not going to speak to me, why should I speak to them, sort of thing.
The men still go to work and have the same workmates, yeah. The women, they don't mix like they used to. Before you used to talk to your next door neighbour and that sort of thing. Now it's a lot of new people that have come into town and you don't know who to trust. So it takes a long time to be friendly with anybody.
People that come now, you've got to be very careful because you don't know whether they're coming to work during strikes. They could be scabs, strike breakers. They could be doing your husband's job tomorrow.
My biggest gripe is just what we were told at the interview. He more or less led us to believe that there was no industrial problems going on, that they were all solved. He led us to believe that they would fly us over, pay for our airfares and our furniture removalist fees. But he didn't tell us that we had to live in Wickham for 2 years, because if we left before then, we would have to pay them back. you know, it is just so unfair to bring people into a company town and just more or less throw them to the lions. Tell them that, you know, if you go on strike, you know, we will sack you, and then you will have to pay us back, and then you will have to get your own expenses to get out of town, because it is a company town, it's their homes. So if you lose your job, you must leave. It is not like when you live in the city. If you lose your job, well, you just go and get another job, you stay in your home. Here, you have to go.
Some of the women who have to stay try to make the best of it by working to rebuild the community.
I just joined in with as much community things that were going on as I possibly could. That was the easiest way to make friends. I just made up my mind that I wasn't going to sit at home and pout all the time, so I joined the action group. I did voluntary work at the pre-primary. I used to help out in John's classroom. I joined the neighbourhood centre. With the neighbourhood centre, there are quite a few staff wives that do attend the morning coffee that we have of a Wednesday morning, and it is very difficult because you more or less start to talk with other women that are there, that their husband are on wages, what's going on at work and that, and they more or less can't understand what we're going on about. And it is very confusing, and it is really hard when you get in a group of women. You do have to watch what you say, and sometimes you feel that you're inhibited. You can't say what you feel.
The children have got really insecure because of this. It's been going on for 3 years. Rob's in the uni a bit, so perhaps they hear a bit more than what other children do. I mean, when you've got a 14 and 15-year-old coming home and saying, his dad's sacked, do we have to pack up? And when you've got a 10-year-old saying, all my friends have left, I've got no one up here. And they don't really want to join the groups or play sport because there's no one what they used to know.
Hey, I need $10 today.
For
Flute.
flute, yeah. My daughter's 13 and she's at the age where the boys are starting to take notice of her, and she comes home and says so-and-so wants to go out with me, and the first thing we say, what's his father do? I mean, I don't like to try and bring into her life the fact that there are us and there are them, but sometimes it, you know, you just can't help it.
I don't particularly want a scab son or child in my house. They can come to the garden, they can play with the kids, but I don't particularly want them in my house. You know, I have that attitude towards them, and I think I always will, because these people are taking away our life, and really they're just in it for a couple of years to get money. We lived up here for years. We helped build the community, the T-ball, the swimming clubs, the Wickham daycare centre, the Wickham club. This is all fundraising that's been going on for years. No one put it there. We all raised for it, and we worked hard to get it. And these people are coming in and just saying, no, we'll take over.
Yeah, just in So Bob Hawke's just palmed us off onto Minister for Industrial Relations, Honourable Peter Morris.
It's Robert Court having
the Women's Action Group. We're hoping really to combine the community again, get it all as one again, if we can. And to make newcomers in town feel welcome, to try and help them out. And we're hoping to make people outside of Wickham aware of what's going on. And we're hoping to bring just more community spirit back into the town. You know, we did form because of the industrial dispute, otherwise we wouldn't have formed. But just sort of keep it light on the industrial side and more on the women's issues.
Well, at their visit with Kay Heller.
Our aim in the action group is to get better quality working for the men and women also that work at Robe. Just not standover tactics. We want them to, you know, have a fair go. Not to have to go to work and be bullied, be criticised, be just victimised against.
Since I've become involved with the action group, and Robin's always been pretty staunch in the union, in a sense I feel we've shut Angela out. She's not been able to come to us with any problems, but we sort of keep trying to tell her that what we're doing is for our future, but it's not really. I think that we're going to have to sort of stop being so involved and try and get our family life back together again.
I mean, as to me, we're leaving in 9 weeks' time and I can't wait. And people keep saying it's going to go quick, it's only another 9 weeks, and I think 9 weeks of hassles every day seems a long time to me.
After 18 years of building their lives in Wickham, Anna and Rob left with their family to start life again in the south. Two months later, I got a call from Gwen to say that she and her family have also left and are living in Queensland. Gwen said she felt sad about leaving the other women who are still trying to make a life for themselves while struggling against the company.
Explosives loosened the earth that has lain undisturbed for countless centuries. And rocks that have remained fixed for millions of years have forced down the iron hills.
Back in the 60s, in the early days of the mining boom, white Australia hadn't recognised Aboriginal land rights and sacred sites.
I don't agree, with miners digging up sacred areas. As I said before, and I'll say it again, that's our church, and Aboriginal people worship their sacred areas, and they're very sacred to us. And we just like, sacred areas to be left alone. But this has been done before our time, before we, realised that we could have our say for our land and everything. So we can't say anything about Mount Newman being dug up, but for any other future sacred areas, we'll fight for it.
Local Aborigines have always been discouraged from settling in the new mining towns. Today, only a couple of Aboriginal families live in Newman, and these have come from the coast for the men to work on the mine.
I came to Newman 9 years ago because my husband got a job on the mine, so we shifted from Headland down to here.
Well, when we first came, they were having a good stare, and, people used to go past and have a look at us here in the yard, wondering what we're doing and that.
I mean, it was just a shock. It was a culture shock just to come to an all-white town being the only black.
When I took my 15, or he was 14 then, when I took him to school, high school, well, a big mob of the kids were out the front and they were saying, "Oh, look out, here come the bungs." At first, my kids didn't want to come over to Newman, and when I got here, I was that lonely because I didn't know anyone. But I said to myself, well, if I don't get out and meet people myself, well, I won't get anywhere, so I just, got to make a few friends here and there, and I settled in okay. And I myself have been looking for jobs at different places. I can't even get an interview with anyone. I just put it down to being discrimination. That I can't get any jobs whatsoever in the town. And I'm willing to work. I do want a job, but I just feel like giving up at the moment because I can't get anything.
Although Newman today is officially an open town, community attitudes to local Aborigines haven't really changed. They are still virtually excluded from living in the town.
Aborigines used to come into town, but they were only allowed in town for the day. Once a fortnight they would come into town, cash their pension checks, pick up their pension money, get together supplies, etc. And then they had to leave town before sundown. They weren't allowed to stay overnight. Over the last 3 to 4 years, more and more Aboriginals have been coming into Newman, camping closer and closer to town, and they're here all the time on a day-to-day basis. We have a group of Aboriginals here who have been dubbed the fringe dwellers because they live on the fringes of Newman and of Newman society. They're a breakaway group from Jigalong. They don't want to go back to Jigalong to live. They want to live near or in Newman.
I mean, I've got nothing against Aboriginals working for the mine, living in town, those who are civilised.
Yeah, I think the community's accepted me and my kids and my husband, but they haven't accepted the fringe dwellers.
I went with Shirley to visit the local Aborigines at the Fringe Camp, 2 kilometres out of town. I was appalled to find that there were no washing or toilet facilities at this makeshift camp.
The ones that are down the back at the turf are here because they want to stay in town. They don't want to go back out to Jigalong. And I think that everybody have got a right to a choice of where they live and what they do. And I know the people aren't going to leave, so I think that the white community in town should be made aware of that and try to help to support them in any way that they can, because they're definitely not leaving.
Our people don't want to go back to Jigalong. Some want to stay because of some family reasons, that they don't want to go back. They want to stay here. Well, it's an open town. Why Aborigines can't be allowed to live here amongst white people?
Most people put up with them and tolerate them, but just barely. And it doesn't take much to tip the scales to find negative attitudes towards them.
When I first came here, I could see that they needed help. And I tried to help them the best way that I knew how to. And I'm still doing things for them even now. I go down and pick the kids up and take them to school, whichever ones are going to school. Or maybe drop somebody off at the shop if they need to go to the shop or hospital. I feel myself that Aboriginal fringe dwellers need help urgently, because we have a few sick people down the back and they're living just out in the open. They haven't even got a shelter to sleep under at the moment, and they've been like that for that long that I think it's really disgusting. First thing, I think they should have a roof over their head and somewhere, to have bath and that.
Our most urgent need here is housing, and we need it quickly as the cyclone season's coming up. If not, if they can't give us housing that quick, give us some sort of a shelter to keep out of the rain. Yeah, I was here when the last cyclone came and we didn't have any shelters at all. The people were, battling to get a shelter. I know some people were sleeping at the libraries and ran community service housing.
The fringe dwellers aren't civilised, so a house to them would be totally destroyed in about, I'd give them 2 days. And then apart from that, you've got all the relations that come along and be sleeping in the houses. The health and all that sort of thing would be thrown out the window. And basically, I don't really think that's what they want. If we built a little area for them out of town, we got the Aboriginals to put down exactly what they wanted for housing. And it's not a house like the white Europeans live in. They just want little humpies and some water and things like that. Now go to those people, ask them what they want. I don't really think they want to be in town, and I don't think they'd be accepted in town too well.
Well, I've been working with the health inspector, Bob Newman, trying to get a camp set up for them somewhere in town.
How can I help you?
Have you found out anything about the camp yet?
Yes. We've more or less got approval to go ahead and develop it. What I want is to make a time with you for tomorrow so that we can go out and have a look at it and actually select the site. You know where it is, don't you?
Yes. How long do you reckon it'll take?
What, to get it approved?
Yeah, no, to get it started, eh?
I reckon I can get it going within a fortnight.
Within a fortnight, eh? Oh, that's good.
The Shire is planning to settle the Aborigines further out of town while appearing to comply with their wishes.
What I'm trying to look for is I'm trying to look along with you people for somewhere where it's got plenty of trees, where we can get shade, where we can get water, where we can get electricity, and where we can get into and get out of. Now, what I want to do now is, you having selected this area, where in this area here you think you might be convenient for you.
What about the area in the where the welfare is? The back.
Well, of course, that's Headland College.
Oh, yeah.
That's Headland College already, and there'd be a bit of a, well, there'd be problems in trying to get it.
We don't want it too far away from town where you can walk in,
Yeah,
you know?
walking distance.
Many people don't have any cars unless we get a bus or...
Right. Well, now, what we're looking at is we're looking at putting in toilet blocks and some of these shelters for you, some of these yellow shelters.
Yeah.
You got a wash house for the start. We got.
The washing machine?
You can have a washing machine.
Yeah, we'll get
You've got washing machines. You've got toilets. You've got showers. There'll be 2 kitchens. See, it's not my ideas. It's your ideas. Now,
So we want a place to
you
have
happy?
Yeah.
You happy here?
Yeah.
No problems?
Yes.
I now want to go back and talk to Homes West, and I want to say to Homes West, okay, this is where we want it. We'll put the temporary stuff in here first, we'll get water, we'll get services in, and then we can start talking about building a proper village here, proper houses.
Later on.
Okay? No, pretty soon, not later
pretty
on.
soon.
Pretty
I
soon.
don't want it 2-3 years' time.
No. The big problem has been this, and that is, it's up to you people to tell us where you want to be. Okay? Now you've told us where you want to be. I can now start.
Well, their ideal place would have been where they are now. They would have preferred to stay there. I really don't know what their real reason is really for, moving them. They say they want it for their yard for the new mine, but then the new mine is quite a few kilometres away from the turf club.
Good drainage, we've got water, we've got electricity. I reckon that's half the battle. Water.
Well, I think the real reason is that they don't want no fringe dwellers living in town at all.
Why didn't they, all those years ago, why didn't they put up a village then and set the people here? Instead of sending them out to Jigalong and making it as a mission right out there. They could have started the mission on the edge of this town as well as the town. But they kicked them out there and made them live out there for all those years while they made this town a modern town, and now that the people are coming back here, I don't think they like it at all. But they got no choice because they're still going to keep on coming and coming now until they do something about it. I mean, they're going to have a village at the outskirts of this town one day, so why don't everybody just help now and get it all set up?
I don't think it's got to the stage here with the Aboriginal problem as it has in other country towns where they have put up big wire enclosures, big barbed wire around the different hotels and community centres to keep them away from the verandas, to try and keep the place clean and tidy.
While we were filming in Newman, fences started to go up around the parks and some of the buildings.
Well, it was a free, open town, you know. Anybody could come and go. And of course the Aboriginal people would just all seem to have come into town, and I don't think the white people around here liked with what they were doing, you know, being drunk and falling around in parks and things. So they thought they'd put these fences up and just keep them out, just like animals, I guess. I mean, what else are they going to fence off? The people are still going to keep coming and coming. They're not going to, that's not going to stop them. The people are people, they can live wherever they want to live. I mean, we don't break the white people's neck if they come from New South Wales or wherever to live here. We don't tell them to go back over there where they come from. What right have they got to tell the people that belong to this area to go back to Jigalong or wherever?
Putting up fences isn't a very good idea to solve the problem because it doesn't give a very good image of the town. It doesn't look good aesthetically, but if it's the only solution to the problem, then why not?
No, I think it's really bad, you know, these fences up everywhere. It's supposed to be an open town, but now we can't get in and sit in the park. You know, people like us that, you know, I know there's a lot of drink problems going on amongst Aboriginal people that leave, you know, tins and that behind, but how are we going to go in and sit down and enjoy our dinner, you know, with our children and that? Or anything, you know, with the families, sit in the cool. It's sort of, you know, we Aborigines have rights, to go in and, you know, mix in. But now we can't, not in here, with all the fences around and everything.
Three months later, when my film crew returned to Newman, they found that the Shire's grand plans had come to nothing. They had provided no facilities for the Aborigines at their present camp or at the proposed new site. But there was a plan afoot to move them to another place, 9 kilometres from the town, with a bus service to take them in and out of Newman. In the 60s, I admired the courage of the women who lived in these hostile places. When I went back to make a film about their lives, I found that although the lawns had grown greener and the towns more prosperous, the problems had become more complex. Life is still difficult for women in the Pilbara, but it's the story of the Aborigines that disturbs me most, and I find it hard to accept that this is Australia in the 1990s.